I was at the window looking out at the gray courtyard when I heard the doorbell. My heart quickened with surprise. We weren't expecting visitors, and my husband had strictly forbidden me from inviting anyone without his permission. I quickly wiped my hands on my apron and went to open it, trying to remember as I walked if I had forgotten to pay any bills. Marcus always complained when a stranger showed up. Behind the door was Stephen. Not my brother by blood, but closer than many relatives. We grew up together in the orphanage since we were 5 years old. We shared the same bowl of porridge, the same blanket on cold nights, the same dream of one day having a real home. I hadn't seen him for almost a year. He was working on a distant construction site in rural Yorkshire, on long shifts, so meetings were rare. Stephen threw his arms around my neck and hugged me tight, as he always did when I was feeling down. And I had been down many times in recent years. Only he didn't know. I never complained. At the orphanage, we learned that complaining solved nothing. Welcome to my channel. Here I tell new life stories every day, and I would be very happy if you subscribed and liked my video. Now let's get to the story. I'm sure you'll enjoy it until the end. He pulled away, looking intently into my eyes. Stephen always had that look that seemed to see right through me, catching every unspoken phrase, every hidden pain. "You've lost weight," he observed, taking off his jacket. "You've lost a lot of weight." I looked away. Of course I'd lost weight eating once a day, or sometimes not even that. The weight goes away quickly. But I couldn't tell him the truth. It was shameful to admit that at 33 I couldn't even manage my own salary. "A lot of work," I murmured, taking his jacket. "I'm tired. Come in. Make yourself at home." Stephen went to the kitchen and looked around. There was an empty plate on the table. I was trying to scrape the dry remnants of yesterday's porridge from it to give to the girls. The youngest, Vanessa Miller, was celebrating her birthday today. She was turning 7. There would be no party. Marcus said there was no money, and my mother-in-law added that children shouldn't be spoiled. "Where's the birthday girl?" Stephen asked, looking around. "The girls are playing in the room." He nodded and headed for the fridge. I wanted to stop him, but I wasn't quick enough. Stephen opened the door and paused. Inside there was a half-empty tub of margarine, 3 eggs, and a bottle of out-of-date yogurt. That was all. My brother slowly turned to me. His face showed perplexity that quickly turned into alarm. "Where are the groceries?" he asked in a low voice. "And why aren't you celebrating the child's birthday?" I opened my mouth to say something, to invent another lie. But at that moment, Marcus Miller entered the kitchen. He had heard voices and came out of the living room where he was watching television. He gave Stephen an appraising look and then stared at me. There was clear dissatisfaction in his eyes. I had let someone in without asking, "Who is this anyway?" Marcus spoke as if Stephen were an unwanted beggar and not a guest. "My brother," I replied, feeling my shoulders tense. "Stephen Resende, he's back from his work shift." "Oh, the one from the orphanage." Marcus scoffed, and there was so much contempt in that smile that I felt ashamed. Not for Stephen, but for myself, for having married a man capable of saying that. "So, all right. Are you staying long?" Stephen didn't answer. He was still looking at the open fridge, then at me, then at my husband. I could see his brain working the picture forming. Stephen was smart. He always managed to see the truth even when everyone around him was lying. "I asked," he repeated, addressing Marcus, but without taking his eyes off the fridge. "Where are the groceries, and why aren't you celebrating the girl's birthday?" Marcus straightened up. He didn't like being questioned in that tone. He was used to giving orders, controlling, deciding, especially in his own home. "That's none of your business," he cut in. "My family, my rules." Stephen finally closed the fridge and turned to us. His face was calm, but I knew that calm. It was deceptive. Beneath it, tension, fury, and determination simmered. "Your family?" he asked back in a low voice. "What a strange family you have. Your wife is thin as a skeleton. The fridge is empty. A child without a party on her birthday. What kind of rules are these?" "Who are you to say anything?" Marcus took a step forward, towering over Stephen. My husband was a big man. He liked to intimidate with his size. "Did you come here to lecture me? You have nothing, just a laborer's job at the end of the world." "I have honor," Stephen replied without backing down an inch, "and conscience. And you—" I saw my husband's face turn red. He clenched his fists, and I feared he would hit Stephen. Marcus had never hit me, but I had seen him assault others in bar fights or arguments with neighbors. He knew how to fight and wasn't afraid of it. "Marcus, please." I stepped between the two, trying to calm the situation. "There's no need. Stephen is just worried. He hasn't seen us in a long time." "Stay out of it," my husband grumbled, pushing me away. "And anyway, explain to your little brother that the money in this house isn't yours." I froze. Stephen frowned. "What do you mean it's not hers?" he asked. "She works, she gets a salary." Marcus smiled scornfully. There was triumph, even pride in that smile. He was proud of what he was about to say. "Works, yes." He nodded. "She gets paid, but all her salary goes to my mom. It's the right thing to do. My mom knows how to manage money better." A heavy silence settled. I couldn't look up. I felt ashamed. Ashamed in front of Stephen, who had always protected me, who had taught me to be strong, not to let myself be used. And I had allowed it. I had handed over my salary every month. It had been 3 years. Stephen remained silent. He looked at me, and I felt that gaze all over my body. There was incomprehension, pain, disappointment in it. Then he looked away at Marcus. "Repeat," he asked very quietly. "What did you just say?" "Her salary goes to my mom," Marcus repeated defiantly. "To my mother-in-law, if that's clearer for you. My mom takes the money, manages it as she sees fit. That's how it works here." "And since when has it worked like that with you?" "Since she became my wife. My mom said young women don't understand money, that they spend it on foolish things. So we agreed. She hands over her salary to my mom. My mom releases it for household expenses sometimes when she deems it necessary." I covered my face with my hands, unable to bear it. For the first time in 3 years, I heard aloud what was happening in my life, and it sounded horrible, absurd, savage. How did I let this happen? "Listen," Stephen began very calmly, too calmly. "Now you'll take the car keys, go to the supermarket and buy groceries. Real groceries, meat, vegetables, fruits, sweets for the girls, everything necessary for a birthday." "Have you lost your mind?" Marcus recoiled in surprise. "Who are you to give me orders?" "I'm the person who won't let your daughters starve while their mother works and brings money home," Stephen replied. "Either you go or I go, but the child will have a party today." "Go to hell, Marcus," he roared. "Get out of here. This is my house." "Your wife's house," Stephen calmly corrected. "As I recall, the flat is in her name. Am I wrong?" He looked at me. I nodded. Yes, the flat was mine. It had been given to me by the government social housing program when I left the orphanage. It was a small 1-bedroom flat that we later swapped for this 2-bedroom one, supplementing it with my savings. Marcus moved in after we got married, but the flat remained registered in my name. "Mine or hers, what's the difference?" Marcus gestured. "We're family. In a family, everything belongs to everyone." "Then why isn't the money for everyone?" Stephen insisted. "Why is her salary with your mom and not in the common budget?" Marcus was speechless. He stood there, mouth open, and the anger on his face mingled with confusion. He wasn't used to being cornered. Usually everyone went silent when he spoke. "You know what?" Stephen took out his wallet and pulled out some notes. "I'll go to the supermarket myself, and you in the meantime sit down and think about your behavior. And this is what I'm telling you. Tomorrow my sister and I are going to the bank. She's going to block your access to her card and start managing her own money, like an adult." "How dare you?" Marcus grabbed Stephen's shoulder, trying to pull him. "Who do you think you are here?" Stephen turned. The movement was quick and precise. He removed my husband's hand from his shoulder, squeezed it, and looked Marcus directly in the eyes. There was a warning in that look. "I am her brother," he said quietly, "the only family she has. If you lay a hand on me again, you'll regret it. I'm not her. I won't tolerate it. Understood?" Marcus struggled, trying to free his arm, but Stephen held him firmly. Then he released him, and my husband recoiled, massaging his wrist. "You two have gone mad," he mumbled. "Completely insane." "Perhaps we have," Stephen agreed, "but the girls' party will happen. Come on. You show me where there's a decent supermarket around here." He took my hand and we left the kitchen. In the bedroom were my daughters Vanessa and the elder Catherine Miller. Catherine, 9, was reading a book to her younger sister. Both wore old dresses that I had mended many times. When we entered, they looked up, and I saw hope in their eyes. "Girls." Stephen knelt in front of them. "I'm Uncle Stephen. Your mom and I grew up together. I came to congratulate the birthday girl." Vanessa smiled shyly. Catherine watched cautiously. She was older, she understood more, she felt the tension in the house. "Now Mom and I are going to the market," Stephen continued. "We're going to buy everything for the party. Cake, fruit, sweets. What do you like most?" "Chocolate," Vanessa whispered, "and tangerines." "There will be chocolate and tangerines," Stephen promised. "And a cake with 7 candles. Agreed." Vanessa nodded, and silent tears rolled down her face. She was crying with joy because someone had promised her a party. I felt such pain that I could barely avoid crying with her. We left the flat. Marcus stayed at home. He didn't even come out to see us off. I heard him talking loudly on the phone, calling his mom, complaining, turning her against us. "How long has this been going on?" Stephen asked when we went down to the courtyard. I remained silent. I was ashamed to answer. 3, I confessed, since Vanessa was born. "And you kept quiet all this time?" I was ashamed. I thought it was temporary, that things would soon get better. My mother-in-law said she was saving money for our future, for the children's education. "And you believed her?" I shrugged, not knowing what to say. Yes, I believed her. I wanted to believe her because admitting the truth was too painful. We entered the nearest supermarket. Stephen took a trolley and started putting in products: meat, chicken, fish, vegetables, fruits, milk, yogurts, cheese. He picked up everything he saw without looking at the prices. I walked beside him and felt as if I had entered another world, a world where you could simply take what you needed, where you didn't have to count every penny and postpone buying butter until the following week. "Choose the cake." Stephen stopped at the confectionery section. "What does Vanessa like best?" I looked at the display case. There were beautiful cakes with cream fruit chocolate frosting. I couldn't remember the last time I had bought a cake. For Vanessa's last birthday, I made it myself with what I had: eggs, a little sugar, a little margarine. It was dry and bland, but my daughter ate it and smiled. "This one," I pointed to a cake with strawberries. "She loves red berries." Stephen nodded to the assistant, who packed the cake in a box. Then we went to the checkout. I watched the products being scanned, the total on the monitor growing, and my heart squeezed. $800. That was what I earned in 2 weeks, and Stephen paid calmly without wincing. "Thank you," I whispered. "I'll pay you back, definitely." "No need." Stephen shook his head. "This is for the girls for Vanessa. She's 7 and she needs a party." We went back home. Marcus was in the bedroom. The door was closed. I heard his voice. He was still on the phone. Stephen began taking the products out of the bags, putting them on the shelves. The fridge filled up, and I felt like crying at the sight. Normal, common as it should be in any family. The girls came out of the bedroom, attracted by the sound of the bags. They stood at the kitchen door, watching with wide eyes. Catherine hugged her younger sister, as if fearing it was all a dream. "Come here," Stephen called them. "Help set the table." We set the table together. I cut the vegetables for the salad. Stephen grilled the chicken, the girls put out the plates. The house smelled of food, of normal, tasty food. And I couldn't remember the last time it had smelled like that here. Marcus didn't come out. He locked himself in the bedroom, and judging by the sound, he was watching television at maximum volume. When everything was ready, we sat down at the table. Stephen placed the cake in the center, stuck in the 7 candles. Vanessa looked at them, and it was clear on her face that she couldn't believe her own happiness. Catherine also smiled, but there was caution in her smile. She feared it would all end. "Make a wish," Stephen said, lighting a match. Vanessa closed her eyes, thought, and then blew out the candles. All at once. We clapped, and she laughed, a clear, joyful, childish laugh. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in so long. We ate. The girls ate eagerly, quickly, as if fearing the food would be taken away. I ate slowly. Every bite seemed incredibly delicious. Stephen talked about his work, about the construction site, about how beautiful it was there. The girls listened, holding their breath. They rarely heard stories about other places. We never traveled. My mother-in-law said holidays were a waste of money. The bedroom door opened. Marcus came out, stopping at the kitchen entrance. He looked at the set table, at the girls with the cake, at us. His face was gloomy. "Here's the thing," he said. "Tomorrow my mum is coming. We're going to sort all this out." "Let her come," Stephen replied calmly. "We'll talk." Marcus snorted and went back to the bedroom. The door slammed. The girls flinched, but Stephen put his hand on Vanessa's shoulder, calming her. "Don't be afraid," he said quietly. "Everything will be fine." I wanted to believe him, but I knew my mother-in-law. I knew how she could be. Tomorrow would be a war, a real war, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. We finished the cake. Vanessa asked Stephen for permission to save a piece for tomorrow, and he nodded. She carefully wrapped it in a napkin and took it to the bedroom, holding it to her chest like a treasure. Catherine helped me clear the table. She worked in silence, but I was constantly looking at Stephen, studying him, trying to understand if I could trust him. "Thank you," she said when we were alone in the kitchen. "For the party. Don't thank me." I stroked her head. "Uncle Stephen, is he staying?" There was hope in her voice. "I don't know," I confessed, "but he's always around. He'll always help if something happens." Catherine nodded and went to the bedroom. I was left alone with Stephen. He washed the dishes methodically, calmly. I was next to him, drying the plates. "What are you going to do?" he asked without turning around. "I don't know. Tomorrow his mum is coming. She's going to try to make everything go back to how it was. She'll pressure you. She'll manipulate you." "I know. You need to be ready to fight back without me. I can't be with you all the time." "I understand." Stephen turned and looked at me. "You deserve better. You work, you raise the children. Your money is yours. No one has the right to take it." "I'm scared," I confessed. "I'm afraid that if I refuse to hand over my salary, he'll leave and I'll be alone with the children." "So what?" Stephen shrugged. "Alone with the children and with your money. It's better than with a husband, his mother, and no money. At least you'll be able to feed the girls." He was right. I knew he was right, but the fear was deeply rooted. Fear of being alone, fear of not coping, fear that the children would be worse off. "Listen." Stephen took me by the shoulders, forcing me to look at him. "You are strong. You survived the orphanage. You studied, got a profession, found a job. You gave birth to and are raising 2 beautiful girls. You can handle anything, but for that you need to stop being afraid and start acting." I felt it. Tears streamed down my face, but I nodded. He was right. I knew he was right. "Tomorrow morning we're going to the bank," Stephen said firmly. "You're going to block your husband's access to your card. Then we'll talk to his mum. Calmly, like adults. We'll explain that now things will be different. And if she doesn't agree, her consent isn't necessary. This is your money, your life, your decisions." We finished the dishes. Stephen made up a place to sleep on the sofa. He stayed the night. Marcus didn't leave the bedroom. I lay down on a folding mattress next to the girls. They were already asleep. Vanessa hugged the piece of cake wrapped in the napkin like a treasure. I looked at them and thought about what Stephen had said. He was right. I needed to start acting for myself, for the girls, for the life we deserved. The next morning, I woke up to my mother-in-law's voice. She was already in the flat, talking loudly in the hallway. Marcus had let her in at the door, and now the 2 of them were going to the kitchen where Stephen was having coffee. "So you're the one causing trouble." My mother-in-law stood at the door with her hands on her hips, her face red with indignation. "You're turning my son's head." Stephen looked up from his cup. "Good morning," he said calmly. "You must be Marcus's mother." "I am Marcus's mother, and these children's grandmother." She pointed a finger towards the bedroom where the girls were sleeping. "I have every right to manage this family's money." "No." Stephen put the cup on the table. "You don't. The money is earned by my sister. It belongs to her." "What sister?" My mother-in-law scoffed. "The orphanage pair. So you 2 think you can do whatever you want here. My daughter-in-law is a member of our family, and in our family I decide." "In your family, perhaps." Stephen stood up. He was taller, stronger, and calmer than my mother-in-law. "But this flat belongs to my sister. The salary is received by my sister, and my sister will manage her own money, not you." "How dare you!" My mother-in-law stepped forward, pointing a finger at Stephen's chest. "Get out of here! This is none of your business." "It is my business." Stephen removed her hand. "Because this is my family, the only one I have, and I won't allow them to use her." "Marcus." My mother-in-law turned to her son. "Are you listening to what this man is saying? Throw him out." Marcus stood to the side, uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do. On one side, his mother, who had controlled him his whole life. On the other, Stephen, who wasn't afraid to fight back. "Perhaps that's enough," he mumbled. "Let's talk calmly." "Talk about what?" My mother-in-law started yelling. "She's obliged to give me her salary. Obliged. I know how she should live." I came out of the bedroom, stopped at the door, and watched the scene. My mother-in-law screamed, gesticulated. Marcus hid his eyes. Stephen was calm, unwavering, and suddenly I felt something inside me break. "Enough," I said softly. Everyone turned. "Enough," I repeated louder. "I will no longer hand over my salary to you. This is my money. I earned it, and I will decide how to manage it myself." My mother-in-law opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. "I will no longer ask permission to buy food for my daughters. I will no longer explain why I need money for clothes or medicine. That ends right now." "You've gone completely mad." My mother-in-law advanced towards me. "I put you in this life. You were a nobody, a girl from the orphanage, and my son married you. Your son married me because I had a flat and a stable job." I looked her directly in the eyes. "And you have been taking my money for 3 years. During that time you received over 100,000 pounds of mine. Where is it?" My mother-in-law stammered. "I was saving it for your future." "Show me the saving statement," I demanded. "If you were saving, there must be an account. Show me." She fell silent. Marcus looked away. "You can't show it," I stated. Because there's no money. You spent it on yourself. I have the right." My mother-in-law started screaming again. "I'm the mother. I'm the grandmother I know best." "No." I shook my head. "You don't anymore, Stephen. Let's go to the bank." I grabbed my jacket, put on my shoes. Stephen followed me in silence. We left the flat. She ran after us in the hallway, continuing to yell, but we didn't look back. We went downstairs, caught a bus, and went to the city center where my bank was located. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were trembling, but I was going. For the first time in 3 years, I was going where I myself decided. At the bank, we were served by a manager. I explained the situation. My husband had access to my card. I wanted to block that access. She nodded without asking unnecessary questions. It probably wasn't the first time she had seen someone like me. In half an hour, everything was resolved. The access was blocked, the card reissued. A new password that only I knew. I held the new card in my hands and couldn't believe it was real. "That's it." Stephen smiled. "The first step has been taken." I nodded. "Yes, the first step." We returned home at lunchtime. There was silence in the flat. My mother-in-law had left. Marcus was sitting in the kitchen, gloomy with red eyes. The girls were playing in the bedroom. I heard their soft voices. "My mom left," he said without looking up. "Said I'm a traitor and doesn't want to see me anymore." I didn't answer. I didn't care what his mom had said. "Do you understand what you've done?" Marcus looked up. There was hurt and anger in his eyes. "You destroyed our family." "I saved mine," I replied softly. "My real family, my daughters and I." He fell silent, then got up, went to the bedroom, and slammed the door again. Stephen stayed with us for 3 more days. He helped with household chores, played with the girls, taught me how to budget. We went to the supermarket together, and I was learning to buy what was necessary without caring about anyone's opinion. It was strange, scary, but also incredibly liberating. On the 4th day, he had to leave. His shift was ending. It was time to go back. We were at the bus stop, and I realized that as soon as he left, I would be alone to face the consequences of my decisions. "Will you manage?" Stephen hugged me. "You already are." "I'm scared." "It's normal. Everyone's scared. But you are strong. You've proven it." The bus arrived. Stephen sat by the window and waved to me. I waved back until the bus disappeared around the bend. I stood there for a long time, just standing, thinking about what would come next. That night, Marcus came out of the bedroom, sat down opposite me at the table, was silent, and then spoke. "And now?" he asked. "Are you in charge?" "I'm in charge of my money now," I replied. "You can stay, you can leave. The choice is yours, but I won't live as before." He looked at me for a long time, studying me as if seeing me for the first time. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "I need some time to think." I nodded. Let him think. I didn't care. A few more days passed. Marcus barely spoke to me. He slept on the sofa. In the morning, he went to work. At night, he came back and immediately locked himself in the bedroom. I took care of the house, raised, the children worked, and for the first time in 3 years, our fridge was full. The girls were flourishing. Vanessa gained weight. Her cheeks became rosy. Catherine smiled more. They played louder, laughed more often. The house was full of life. And then Marcus packed his bags and left. He left on a Thursday night. He simply picked up the backpack he had been packing all day and walked out the door. He didn't say goodbye to his daughters, didn't say where he was going. He just left. I stood in the hallway looking at the closed door. I waited to feel relief, or on the contrary, panic. But there was an emptiness inside, a strange, silent void, as if a part of my life had ended and another was beginning. Vanessa peeked out of the bedroom. "Daddy left," she asked quietly. "Yes." I knelt in front of her. "Daddy left, but we stayed. Me, you, and Catherine, and everything will be fine." She nodded, didn't cry, wasn't upset, just nodded, and went back to the bedroom. I realized then that the children felt the tension in the house. They lived in it, just like me. And now that tension was gone, they could breathe easier. The first few days without Marcus were strange. I would wake up in the morning and automatically be alert to see if he was leaving the bedroom, if I needed to prepare his breakfast, if I had forgotten to iron his shirt. Then I remembered he wasn't there and went back to bed. I slept another half hour, simply because I could. The girls got used to it faster than me. Catherine stopped walking on tiptoes. Vanessa started singing in the morning. The 3 of us had breakfast in the kitchen, and I was learning not to look at the bedroom door, not to expect a disapproving look. I called Stephen every night, told him how the day had been, what I had bought, how much I had spent. He listened, sometimes gave advice, but mostly just stayed silent. His silence was comforting. It said, "You're coping. Keep going." After a week, my mother-in-law called. I saw her number on the screen and stared at it for a long time, not daring to answer. But in the end, I pressed the green button. So satisfied. She didn't greet me, went straight to the attack. "You kicked your husband out of the house, left the children without a father." "He left on his own accord," I replied calmly. "I didn't kick him out. You drove him mad." My mother-in-law raised her voice. "You and that little brother of yours destroyed the family." "Da. The family destroyed itself when you started taking my money." I was surprised by my own calmness. Before, I would have been scared. I would have started to justify myself. Now I simply stated the facts. I worked and my children went hungry. You were the ones who destroyed the family. "How dare you? I did everything for you. I was saving money." "You weren't saving. You were spending on yourself. And now Marcus is living with you, because here he can no longer control my money. That's all." My mother-in-law choked with indignation. I could almost see her gasping, trying to find words. "You'll still regret it," she finally blurted out. "Marcus will come back and put you in your place. If he comes back, we'll talk." I looked at the girls playing on the rug. "For now, excuse me, but I need to prepare dinner. Bye." I hung up, put the phone on the table, and looked at my hands. They weren't trembling. I talked to my mother-in-law, and my hands didn't tremble for the first time in 3 years. A month passed. Marcus didn't call, didn't show up. I learned from a neighbor that he was indeed living with his mother in her rooms on the outskirts. He continued to work, but was in no hurry to come home. My mother-in-law was probably happy to have her son nearby again under control. I made a list of expenses and realized that we were living well. We weren't rich, but we had dignity. There was enough for food, for clothes, for the children, and even a little left over for unexpected expenses. I opened a savings account at the bank and started saving a little, £50 a month just to have a safety net. Vanessa enrolled in drawing classes. Catherine joined the library and now brought home 3 books a week. We went to the park on weekends, ate ice cream, fed the ducks, common things that common families do, but for us, it was a revelation. One evening, the doorbell rang. I opened it and saw Marcus. He stood on the doorstep with a bouquet of flowers and a guilty face. "May I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He entered the flat, looked around. A lot had changed there. I had moved the furniture, hung new curtains, bought a colorful bedspread for the sofa. The flat was brighter, cozier. "Are the girls asleep?" Marcus asked. "Yes, it's late." He nodded, went to the kitchen, sat at the table. I stood at the door, arms crossed. I wasn't going to sit near him. I didn't want to create the illusion of intimacy. "I want to come back," he said, looking at the flowers in his hands. "I understand that I was wrong. My mother she controlled me, controlled our money. My money, I shouldn't have allowed it." I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "I miss the girls." His voice faltered. "I miss home." "Me?" I asked. "Or the chance to control my life?" "You." He finally looked up. "Seriously, I realize that without you I am nothing. My mother drives me crazy, constantly telling me what to do. I'm tired, I want to come home. The rules are different now." I leaned against the doorframe. "I manage my money. I decide how to spend it myself. Your mother won't get a penny. If you want to help her earn your own money, help with your salary." "Agreed." He nodded quickly. "I agree. Everything as you say. And one more thing." I paused. "I need to think. You're not coming back today. I need time to understand if I want you back. After all." Marcus paled. You want to divorce." "I want to think," I repeated. "You destroyed my trust. For 3 years you allowed your mother to humiliate me, take my money, starve my daughters. 3 years. That's not easily forgotten." "But I said I understood that I was wrong." "Words are just words, Marcus. I need actions. I need to understand if you've really changed or if you're just tired of your mother and want to run back." "Maha." He opened his mouth to object, but I raised my hand, stopping him. "Go home. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk." Marcus stood up, placed the flowers on the table, walked to the door, paused on the threshold. "I really have changed," he said quietly. I swear, I didn't answer. I simply closed the door behind him and leaned against it with my back. My heart was beating fast, but not from fear, but from something else, from the awareness that I had the right to choose, the right to think, the right not to forgive just because someone apologized. The next day, I called Stephen and told him about Marcus's visit. "And what did you decide?" he asked. "I don't know." I confessed. On the one hand, the girls need a father. On the other, I'm not sure if he's changed. Maybe he's just tired of his mom. "And you want him back? Not the girls, not the circumstances. Do you want to continue living with him?" I thought. I tried to answer that question honestly and realized I didn't know. The month without Marcus had been peaceful. No one controlled me, gave me orders, humiliated me. I lived as I wanted. The children were happy. We were happy. "I don't know," I repeated. "I guess I don't want to." "Then why think?" There was a gentle insistence in Stephen's voice. "You've already answered yourself." He was right. I already knew the answer. I was just afraid to admit it. Afraid of being alone, afraid of judgment, afraid of not coping. But I was already coping. A month had passed alone, and nothing terrible had happened. "I need a lawyer," I said aloud, and those words brought relief. "I need to file for divorce." "I know a good one." Stephen wasn't surprised, didn't try to convince me to give up, just helped. "As always, I'll send you the contacts. A competent woman. She'll help you sort everything out." The following week, I met with the lawyer Maria Wilson. She was a woman of about 50, serious, with an attentive gaze. She listened to my story, asked a few questions, and then picked up a notepad. "Is the flat in your name?" she asked. "Yes, I received it from the government as an orphan when I left the orphanage." "Excellent. That means your private property is not subject to division. Are there jointly acquired assets? I thought. The furniture was mostly bought before the marriage or with my money. The appliances, too. In essence, no, I replied. He didn't buy anything. Everything was from before the marriage or I bought it. Excellent. Then the case will be simple. We will file for divorce. We will establish child support for the children. Given that the flat is yours and you materially provide for the children on your own, there should be no problems. And if he resists, I still feared resistance. What if he says he wants to save the marriage? Divorce is a right, not an obligation of mutual consent. Maria Wilson spoke calmly and confidently. If you want to divorce, you will divorce. The only thing the defendant can do is delay the process but not stop it. Those words calmed me. I wasn't trapped. I had a way out. 3 days later, I called Marcus. We need to meet, I said. Have a serious conversation. He came that evening, sat in the kitchen, looking at me with hope. I served tea, sat opposite him. I filed for divorce. I said directly, without beating around the bush. The lawyer is already preparing the documents. Marcus's face contorted. What? But I said I wanted to come back, that I changed. I know what you said, but I don't want that. I don't want to live with you anymore. Because of my mother. There was confusion in his voice. I promised she wouldn't interfere anymore. Not just because of her. I looked into his eyes. But why did you allow her to interfere? Why did you keep quiet for 3 years while your daughters starved? Why did you think it was normal to take my salary? But I admitted the mistake. Admitting isn't enough, Marcus. I understood this month that I'm fine without you. I'm at peace. I'm not afraid. I live as I want. I don't want to go back to how it was. He remained silent, drank his tea, looked out the window at the table anywhere but at me. So it's over, he asked. Finally decided. Yes, I nodded. It's over. And the girls will live with me. You can see them whenever you want. I won't prevent it, but they will live here with me. And child support. He smiled bitterly. You're going to demand support? Yes, it's your obligation as a father. Marcus stood up abruptly. The chair scraped across the floor. Here's the thing. He raised his voice. You decided everything alone. Didn't ask for advice. You didn't ask either when you handed my salary to your mother, did you? I retorted. Didn't ask for advice when you left the children without food? Go to hell. He cut the air with his hand. Fend for yourself since you're so smart, and I'll find a woman who respects me. He turned and left. The door slammed. I sat in the kitchen and realized I felt nothing but relief. No pain, no regret, just the relief that it was all over. The divorce process took 2 months. Marcus first missed the hearings, then showed up and caused a scandal in the judge's chambers. He shouted that I destroyed the family, that I turned the children against him, that I was demanding too much child support. The judge listened calmly and then asked him to present evidence that he had contributed to the children's upkeep over the past 3 years. There was no evidence because all my wages went to my mother-in-law and his wages were spent goodness knows where. Maria Wilson presented my bank statements showing that I covered all the children's expenses. The divorce was finalized. Child support was set at 1/4 of his salary for the 2 children. Marcus left the courtroom gloomier than a thundercloud. I left with a feeling of freedom. Congratulations. Maria Wilson shook my hand. Now you are officially free. I smiled. Yes, free. Life settled down. I worked, raised the children, saved money. Marcus came to see the girls once every 2 weeks, taking them for 2 hours to the park or a cafe. He always came frowning, spoke little. The girls came back in silence, and I knew he was complaining about me to them, but I didn't forbid the meetings. They had the right to know their father. No matter who he was, he paid child support occasionally. Sometimes he forgot, sometimes he said he had no money. I didn't argue, I simply went through legal channels. They collected the debt, and Marcus got even angrier. But I didn't care. It was money for the children, and I had the right to demand it. Stephen came every 2 months. We spent weekends together, took the girls to the museum, to the cinema, just walked around. He saw how we had changed, how we were calmer, happier, and every time he left, he said the same thing, I'm proud of you. 3 words, but they meant more to me than all Marcus's apologies and all my mother-in-law's promises. 6 months passed since the divorce. I learned to live alone. I learned to fix the tap, to fix the plug socket, to call a technician when necessary. I learned to make my own decisions and not to be afraid of responsibility. The children were growing up, maturing. Vanessa was attending drawing classes and had already won a school competition. Catherine had signed up at the library and now brought home 3 books a week. We went to the park on weekends, ate ice cream, fed the ducks, common things that common families do, but for us, it was a revelation. Once at work, a new colleague approached me. His name was Andrew. He had been transferred from a branch in another city. We needed to discuss a joint project and met in the meeting room. Andrew was the complete opposite of Marcus. Not very tall, thin, wearing glasses with a gentle smile. He spoke calmly, listened attentively, didn't interrupt. When I expressed my opinion on the project, he nodded and said, "Great idea. Let's do it like that." Simply, no discussions, no proving he was right, no trying to impose his own opinion. I was surprised. We started working together. The project was long and we met almost every day. Andrew talked about his life. He was divorced, had no children, lived alone, moved here for work, and hadn't made any friends yet. "And you?" he asked once during lunch. "Do you have family and daughters?" I replied, 2 daughters, 9 and 7, and an ex-husband. We divorced 6 months ago. Andrew nodded without asking anything else. I appreciated his tact. Gradually, our conversations began to go beyond work. We discussed books, films, life. Andrew was cultured, an interesting conversationalist. It was easy to be with him. There was no need to prove I was right. There was no need to argue, we just talked. Once he invited me to the cinema. I was confused. No one had invited me out in a long time, just as friends. He quickly added, seeing my reaction, "If you don't want to, I understand." "I want to," I replied, "but I need someone to look after the children." "How about we take them with us?" Andrew suggested. "There's a new animated film out for their age." I was surprised. A man was suggesting taking my daughters on a date. That was unusual. The 4 of us went. Andrew bought the tickets, popcorn for the girls' juice. In the cinema, he sat next to Vanessa and explained the plot when she didn't understand something. After the cinema, we went to a diner, and he asked the girls if they liked the film, which character was their favorite. Catherine watched him attentively, studying him, and then leaned over to me and whispered, "He's nice." I smiled. Yes, he was nice. We started meeting more often. Andrew came to our house, played with the girls, helped with homework. He didn't try to be their father, didn't pressure, didn't demand attention. He was just around, comfortable, calm, reliable. One night, when the girls were already asleep, we were sitting in the kitchen drinking tea. Andrew took my hand. "I don't want to rush things," he said softly, "but I want you to know. I feel good with you, with all of you, and I would like, if you don't mind, to be part of your life." I looked at our intertwined hands. His palm was warm, firm, reliable. "I also feel good with you," I confessed. "But I'm scared. I'm afraid of repeating a mistake." "I'm not rushing," Andrew repeated. "We can go as slowly as you need. I'll wait." And he waited. We dated for several months without rushing, without forcing the situation. He met Stephen when he came back from work. They talked for a long time about what I didn't know, but after the conversation, Stephen told me, "He's a nice guy." Coming from him, that was the highest compliment. Marcus found out I was seeing someone through the girls. Vanessa, in her childlike innocence, told him that Uncle Andrew had taught her to play chess. Marcus called me that night, and I heard anger in his voice. "So you've already found a replacement." He didn't greet me, went straight to the attack. "You were quick, Marcus." "That's none of your business," I replied calmly. "We're divorced. My personal life doesn't concern you. It does if that guy is living with my daughters, with our daughters. And he treats them well," I cut in, "better than you did in recent years. How dare you? I am their father. Then behave like a father. Come at the appointed time. Pay child support without reminders. Take an interest in their lives. As for my personal life, it really is none of your business." I hung up. I didn't stay to listen to his complaints. I had no obligations to him. I was free. Andrew didn't rush me to make a decision. We just lived, met, spent time together, got to know each other. He came on Saturdays and we prepared lunch together. He played board games with the girls. He helped me choose a new computer when the old one broke. He was around without overwhelming me, without controlling, without demanding, just around. And once I understood that I wanted him to stay, not for the weekend, not for the night, but forever. We were sitting in the kitchen. He was reading a newspaper. I was washing the dishes. An ordinary, quiet, peaceful evening. And I understood. This was it. Happiness, not in loud words, not in flowers and gifts. In a quiet, serene evening next to a man I trusted. "Andrew," I called. He looked up from the newspaper. "Stay," I asked, "but for good." He smiled, stood up, came closer, and hugged me. "With pleasure," he replied softly. Andrew moved in a month later. Not all at once, not abruptly. First he left things for the weekend, then for the week. The girls gradually got used to it, and that was the right way. They saw that he wasn't trying to take their father's place, wasn't pressuring them, wasn't demanding love. He was just around, reliable and calm. Catherine accepted him first. She was the oldest. She remembered what it was like with Marcus and saw the difference. Andrew helped her with maths, praised her essays, listened to her endless stories about the books she read. Vanessa took longer to get used to it, but once I saw her holding his hand when we were walking in the park. Andrew looked at me, and there was so much happiness in his eyes that my heart squeezed. We didn't rush the official formalization of the relationship. We just lived together, built our routine, got used to each other. Andrew was an organized and calm man. He cleaned up his messes, cooked, helped with the children. He didn't consider that to be my obligation. He just did it because we were a family, and everyone had their tasks. We put the money into a common budget, but I still controlled my share. Andrew never asked what I spent it on, didn't demand reports. He trusted me, and I trusted him. For the first time in my life, I understood how a healthy relationship should be built. Marcus came to see the girls less and less. First once every 2 weeks, then once a month, then he stopped showing up completely. He constantly delayed child support, and I was tired of chasing after justice. Maria Wilson helped me file a request for partial loss of his parental rights because of the negligence in paying child support. The process was long, but I was ready to go all the way. The girls didn't ask about their father. Sometimes Vanessa would say, "Do you remember when Daddy was home?" And I would reply, "I remember." She would nod and not return to the subject. Catherine remained silent. She was a smart girl. She understood more than she seemed to. Once she asked, "Mom, will Uncle Andrew stay with us forever now?" "If we all want him to," I replied. "I do," Catherine said firmly. "He's nice." Vanessa nodded. "I do too." I hugged them both, my girls, my happiness. Stephen came less often. He got a different job with longer shifts but a higher salary and was saving money for his own flat. We called each other, exchanged messages, and he always asked, "How are the girls? Their studies, how's life?" "You know what?" I told him once. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have made it. Wouldn't have found the strength to leave Marcus." "You would have made it," Stephen said confidently. "Just later. I just sped up the process. But you were there. You supported me." "We always supported each other." He smiled. "Since the orphanage, do you remember how you defended me from the older boys?" I laughed. I remembered a skinny little girl who would throw herself at bullies with her fists to protect her younger brother. "We're a team," Stephen said. "Always have been, always will be." 5 years passed since that day Stephen opened our fridge and saw the emptiness. 5 years in which my life changed completely. I was in the kitchen of my new flat preparing dinner, a special dinner. Stephen was coming. We were going to gather as a family. There was soup cooking on the hob, chicken roasting in the oven, vegetables cut for the salad on the table. The fridge was full, so full that sometimes there wasn't enough space for all the products: meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, dairy products, juices, everything a healthy family needs. The girls were doing their homework in their bedrooms. Catherine was preparing for her GCSEs. In a year, she would go to college. Vanessa was drawing. She had an exhibition at the art school tomorrow and wanted to finish the final painting. Andrew was in the living room with his laptop finishing a work project. He was about to travel for work for a week and wanted to get everything sorted before leaving. An ordinary evening in an ordinary family. Nothing special, but for me it was a miracle. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands and went to open it. Behind the door was Stephen with a huge bag. "I brought presents for the girls," he announced, entering the flat. "And a cake, too. I decided today is a party day." "What party?" I was surprised. Just, do we need a reason to get together? He was right. We didn't. We set the table together. I got the dishes, Stephen cut the bread, Andrew poured juice into the glasses. The girls rushed out of their bedrooms at the sound of Uncle Stephen's voice and were now hanging on him, telling him the news. We sat down at the table. A large table in a large flat, full plates, hot food, laughter, conversations. Stephen talked about his new job, about the beauty of the region where he was. Catherine shared her plans for the future. She wanted to go to journalism college. Vanessa showed photos of her paintings. Andrew discussed fishing with Stephen. They planned to go out together in the summer. I sat and looked at them, at my family, at the people I loved, at those who loved me. After dinner, we had tea and cake. The girls went to bed. They had school the next day. Stephen stayed the night, settling on the sofa in the living room. Andrew went to the bedroom. He would have to wake up early tomorrow. I stayed in the kitchen, washed the dishes, tidied the table, looked at the full fridge, at the leftover food on the plates, at the empty juice glasses. Stephen came out to the kitchen, took a cloth, and started drying the dishes. "Do you remember that day?" he asked softly. "When I arrived and your fridge was empty?" "I remember. I was scared that day, really scared. I thought I had lost you, that you had broken, that you would never be yourself again." I looked at him. "But you didn't break." Stephen continued. "You pulled yourself together and started living, really living. You helped me." "I just opened the fridge," he smiled. "The rest you did yourself." We finished the dishes in silence. Then Stephen hugged me, kissed the top of my head. "Good night, my little sister." "Good night, brother." I lay down next to Andrew. He slept, breathing softly. I hugged him, feeling the warmth of his body, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow would be a new day, an ordinary day. Work, school, chores, family dinner. Conversations in the kitchen, children's laughter, the normal life of a normal family. But for me, it was the best life in the world. The one I chose, the one I fought for, the one I deserved. Sometimes I thought about that day. Stephen opened the fridge, about how everything changed from that moment. If he hadn't come, if he had stayed silent, if he hadn't forced me to act, what would have happened to me? To the girls, I probably would have continued to endure, continued to give my salary to my mother-in-law, continued to starve with my children, continued to think that this was how it should be, that I didn't deserve better. But Stephen came and opened the fridge. And that simple gesture of opening the fridge unleashed a chain of events that changed my life. Sometimes for a change to happen, all it takes is a single person, a person who says, "That's not right," a person who supports a person who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. For me, that person was Stephen, my brother, who grew up with me in the orphanage, who knew the value of family, of food, of warmth, who couldn't bear to see how I was being used. But then I met Andrew and understood that a real family is not just blood or documents, it is respect, care, support. It's being valued not for what you bring home, but simply for who you are. The girls grew up in that atmosphere. They knew what a healthy relationship was. They saw how a man should behave in a family, how a woman should behave. They learned from our example. Catherine once told me, "Mom, I will never marry a man who doesn't respect me." I hugged her. "Right, my daughter, never marry," Vanessa added. "And I'm going to earn my own money and manage it myself. Right?" "Right," I repeated. "Always be independent. They will remember that. They will carry that for life. And perhaps they won't have to go through what I went through because they will know from the beginning that they deserve respect. They have the right to their own lives, their own money, their own decisions." A few more years passed. Catherine finished high school and went to journalism college. Vanessa continued at art school, planning to go to art college. Stephen got married, met a woman at work. They dated for 2 years and then got married. I was happy for him. Finally, he had his own family. Marcus never reappeared in our lives. I heard he still lives with his mom, works, but didn't start a family. I felt sorry for him, but only a little. He made his choice just as I made mine. Once I met my mother-in-law on the street by chance near a market. She had aged, was stooped, her hair completely white. She looked at me, recognized me, and turned her face away. I didn't stop, just walked past. I felt no anger, no resentment, nothing towards her. She was part of a past that I had long since overcome. That night I told Andrew about the encounter. "It's strange," I said. "I thought I'd feel angry, or at least something, but nothing, just a strange person." "That's good." Andrew hugged me. "It means you've really moved on from the past." He was right. I had moved on. I no longer lived in that fear, that dependence. I had built a new life, and that life was beautiful. We organized a big family party on the anniversary of that day. Stephen came and opened the fridge. I chose that date on purpose. I wanted to celebrate the day that changed everything. Everyone came. Stephen with his wife, some friends, colleagues. The girls invited their friends. The house was full of people, laughter, warmth. There was so much food on the table it didn't fit. I cooked for 3 days, couldn't stop. I wanted everything to be perfect, that no one would leave hungry. Stephen made a toast. "You know," he said, "5 years ago I came to visit my sister and saw an empty fridge. It was painful, revolting, frightening. I realized at once that she was losing herself, that we needed to act immediately. Everyone listened in silence. I just opened the fridge." Stephen continued, "Such a simple gesture, but it triggered the change. It wasn't me who changed her life, she changed it herself. I just gave a push." He looked at me. "So let's drink to the fact that sometimes all it takes is one person to say that's not right. A person who supports a person who believes. May everyone have such a person, and may fridges always be full in every home." We drank. I cried. Andrew held my hand. The girls hugged us. That was my family, my real family. That night when everyone had left, I was in the kitchen washing the dishes. Andrew helped as always. We worked in silence, in sync as a team. "You know what?" I said. "I am grateful to fate for everything, even for those 3 years with Marcus and his mother." Andrew looked at me surprised. "Why?" "Because it taught me to value what I have now, to value respect, freedom, independence. I went through hell, but I came out stronger. And now I know for sure that I will never again allow anyone to treat me like that." Andrew hugged me. "And you don't need to." He said, "You deserve only the best." We were in the kitchen embracing. The city lights shone outside. Our children slept in their bedrooms. The fridge was full of food. The house was warm and cozy. That was simple, common happiness, but so precious. The happiness I fought for, the happiness I chose, the happiness that began with an open fridge and a brother's determination to say that wasn't right. And now when I opened the fridge, I didn't just see groceries. I saw freedom, independence, the right to choose. I saw my life which belonged only to me. And that was the best thing that could have happened to me.